Wealth creation through property. Alpus Group, ethical and sustainable property investment and development. We have lots of interest in developing undervalued or underused property. So if you've got property with any form of distress, short lease, fire damage, water damage, subsidence, structural problems, then we can actually transform the value of your property. This even applies if you've got commercial property that's empty, unused or underused. We can transform the value of that property by changing its use. So if you want to see what we can do, just get in touch with us, talk to us about your property, the problem you've got, and we will endeavour to come up with a solution to transform the value of your property, thus producing a win-win situation for you, the property owner, and us as the developer. So we're Alpus Group. We're all about ethical and sustainable property investment and development in the UK and Europe. This is our management team. Louise Suter is our group architect. Anna Lipcheva is our rentals director, and I'm the founder of the company and CEO. Alpus was founded in Slovenia in 2015 for the purpose of developing and investing in projects throughout Europe, which included at that time the UK. And then Brexit happened, so things slightly changed, but we still invest and develop in Europe and beyond. So what is the property wealth formula? It's the achievement of 4 pillars: education, leverage, power team, and systems. And I'll explain what you can do to achieve all of these things. Education, we subscribe to and we recommend Your Property Network magazine. It's a great magazine for all different types of education about property. So if you want the posted version, you've got a QR code there, or a digital version, and inside this magazine you get top articles from all sorts of experts. You can see some of them named there. John Howard is one, and we've got Ant Lyons is another one from YPN magazine. It's £23.95 a month, and after a 28-day free trial. So this QR code will give you a 28-day free trial. We also recommend Property Investors Network. Property Investors Network is a fantastic organisation founded by Simon Zucchi in 2003, and it offers you education. There are lots of courses here from Property Investors Network, and if you want to look at the range of courses, you can scan the QR code and you can see all of the courses available. But from foundation courses through to masterminds and even higher level than masterminds, Property Investors Network, Simon Zucchi's PIN, is a great organisation. There are 50 meetings throughout the UK giving you a support network, and there are 2 meetings in the Netherlands as well. So we heartily recommend for education, networking and support Property Investors Network. So who am I and what qualifies me to talk about property development? Well, I'm Alan Edwards. I'm a chartered construction manager and project manager. I've been managing major projects for decades in the UK and also internationally. I've worked for contractors, consultants and clients, so I've seen projects from all sides, the good, the bad and the ugly. I've worked with lots of different forms of contract, such as JCT, traditional, that's construction only, or JCT design and build, NEC contracts, FIDIC, international forms of contract, ICHEMI, form of contract, AIA, management fee and construction management. So whatever the arrangement, contractual arrangement, I've actually worked with it on one project or more. I've carried out all sorts of residential, commercial, warehouse, retail, hotels, offices for different clients, including massive infrastructure projects such as railways and port installations, major land reclamation. I wrote a book about my experience called The 20 Key Factors for Project Success or Failure, which is available on Amazon. So I'm a Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Building, Fellow of the Association for Project Management. I've got a Master of Science degree in Rail Systems Engineering, as well as a BSc degree in Mathematics and Computing, and I did a Diploma of Management Studies at the Luton University. I recently graduated from the Help to Grow scheme, a government-sponsored scheme, which is like a mini MBA from the University of Portsmouth Business School. This was one of the first project management roles that I had, hotel developments in the Bahamas, Hotel Corporation of the Bahamas. I was there for 3 years, managing major projects, dealing with large contractors, pre-qualifying and dealing with the tender process, and actually managing on site the Emerald Beach Hotel refurbishment, the demolition of the old Emerald Beach Hotel, which was fire damaged, and then I moved to Freeport in Grand Bahama and managed the Lucayan Beach project, which was a hotel and casino. I spent about 5 years on Chelsea Harbour development. This is developing high quality mixed use development, a lot of residential. This is actually a picture of the hotel, Chelsea Harbour Hotel, and the whole area was redeveloped from what was relatively derelict land into massively high value residential by P&O developments. These are a few pictures of the development. It really was quite a remarkable transformation, and I'm really pleased to have had the opportunity to participate in that construction management project. So it was an interesting form of contract used there, and it was the largest and fastest moving project in Europe at the time. This is another interesting project that I carried out after Chelsea Harbour. It was for refurbishment and extension of a Grade 2 listed building for Cheval Property Management at 1 to 4 Hyde Park Gate. And you can see very high quality luxury internal finishes, 5-star. This is for serviced accommodation. So this was to rival the likes of the Dorchester, the Ritz, the 5-star hotels, which would charge visitors massive fees to hire a suite for a wealthy family and their entourage, whereas Cheval Property Management offered a home from home, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments in Hyde Park residences, where families could stay in a second home in the UK, and they could bring in their own chef and other staff to attend to them. This is very high quality serviced accommodation. It's still operating, and it's made millions for the owners. Another project I carried out as part of the Docklands Light Railway team, which is Transport for London, and I led the Arab team that was seconded into DLR to help to deliver the Stratford International Extension for DLR, and we contributed to the DLR team effort there. As you can see, with all of these major projects, there are a lot of interfaces, there's a lot of effort required on the part of design consultants as well as contractors, as well as project management of complex projects like these. Crescent development project was the biggest project that I participated in. There were 3 parts to it. The Crescent Hotel, which was actually on land reclaimed from the sea, Crescent City, which was an office block, and Crescent Tower, which was residential space. There was also a retail part of the development, and this is creation of high value assets from low value land. This is port land, a vacant site. We reclaimed some of the land from the sea, so that created massive value just by the reclamation, which was done using a cofferdam. We relocated some of the port activities elsewhere in order to achieve that. This is another perspective of the Crescent development project. You can see ferry in the foreground, and then what used to be the port area, now redeveloped as the Crescent Development Hotel. Major projects in the UAE and Macedonia. I was managing the Kumanova to Belyakovce stage 1 of the railway between Macedonia and Bulgaria in the period 2018 up to 2020 when COVID struck, and that stopped that project. But an interesting project with lots of challenges through some challenging countryside. And of course, all such transport projects increase the value of the land around them because they're bringing the ability to transport people and goods easier between regions. So there would be a great economic benefit to Macedonia and to Bulgaria of this railway. Very challenging terrain to actually put the railway through, lots of excavation through rock formations which needed to be safely carried out, not only for the work itself but also for the long term. You couldn't have the risk of rock falls onto the railway in the future. My interest in property, I've been investing in property since the 1980s, but since 2020 I undertook a property mastermind with Simon Zucchi. I'm now on a Your Next Level mastermind with Simon Zucchi. I'm the host of the Portsmouth Property Investors Network meeting along with a colleague who joined me this year to jointly host the meeting, and I'm a Property Entrepreneurs Network franchisee for Hampshire. So that's Jack Dowrer, the founder of the Property Entrepreneurs Network. So we're very active in Hampshire. I know the Portsmouth area very well. And apart from having developed properties in the UK, we also carry out and have property transactions going on in Europe as well. We sold a property recently in Slovenia. We've got another one for sale this year, and we sold a property in Azerbaijan recently as well. So clients' feedback. We've basically got feedback here from some clients, and the consensus is that we're probably property problem solvers. So essentially, there's a testimonial from Gilan Holding at the bottom of the page there that I helped Gilan Holding to identify potential problems and resolve complex situations in a timely way, which is, a shorthand way of saying that I helped them through some quite major difficulties with that project. One of them being that the client signed up with a contractor to the wrong form of contract without seeking our expert advice and landed himself in a problematic situation regarding claims, which was helped by the fact I had day-by-day diaries of the whole project. I was there for 3 years on site and another 2 years helping fight this claim from the contractor. And my daily diaries actually were extremely valuable in recording and establishing what actually happened on the site and why the contractor was not entitled to the massive claim that he'd made. And the claim was actually settled out of court, so there was no big payout to the contractor. Recent Alpus property transactions, holiday homes in Slovenia, purchase and sale holiday lets in the UK, serviced accommodation in the UK, commercial to residential conversions in the UK. We'll come on to those a little bit later. Off-market deals under negotiation in Hampshire, particularly under the Property Entrepreneurs Network franchise, and sale of property in Azerbaijan recently. So my journey from management trainee to project director and founder of Alpus, CEO, the largest project I have undertaken in my career is $1.5 billion, which was the Crescent development project. Probably the total value of projects I've been involved in management of in different roles comes up to, I would imagine, in the region of 5 billion over my whole career. And I've got 40 years plus of experience of construction and different roles in different companies, consultants and client bodies as well. So I've worked in commercial offices, hotels, retails, residential, industrial and infrastructure projects. I wrote a book about my experience, which is basically the 20 key factors for project success or failure. And you'll see a QR code to that book if you like to look at it. If you leave your details in the comments below, we'll get you a free copy of the book. Just have to pay the postage and packing. So what are the key factors for project success? A clear and concise project remit or brief, a risk assessment and contingency, finance and funding provision. The whole site needs to be available and accessible. It's fairly obvious, but you'd be surprised the number of times it comes up that either the whole of the site or part of the site is not available or not accessible. Statutory permissions are in place, so this is the planning permission, and then at the appropriate stage, the building control permission. So you need the planning permission in order to start converting the site, whatever it is, an open site or an existing building, into a new use. And then all the works need to be in accordance with the building code. Special protection measures and party wall agreements. If you're working beside the railway, you may need special protection measures. If you're working adjacent to a neighbour, you need a party wall agreement for any work that's going to affect the neighbour. Protecting utilities, you need a survey done of all of the utilities, and you need to either divert or protect the utilities so you don't damage them during the works. And number 8, enabling / advanced works. Sometimes demolition works or clearance works are actually carried out as a separate contract in advance of the main works, just because it saves time, and while the advanced works are going on, the design team can be finishing the detailed design. Identifying the appropriate contracting strategy. Well, we could talk a lot about that. There are different methods. There's the traditional method where the client engages the design team, and then once the design is sufficiently complete, engages a contractor under tender process. And there are alternatives with design and build, where the client only engages his design team to do the preliminary design. Thereafter, the detailed design is done by the contractor. And alternatively, there could be a construction management arrangement where the construction manager manages contracts which are between the client and different trade contractors or package contractors. So this is another way of carrying out the work. The package contracts may include design elements, so it's the interfaces which are complex and need to be managed to ensure there are no delays. So obviously, whatever project you're involved in, it needs a complete and buildable design at the appropriate time. Usually there's an effort to overlap the design and construction for speed. You also need quality assurance and control measures, concise project remit or brief. It's actually a mistake there. Building information management and modelling, contracts and collaboration. you need to ensure that each designer and each contractor and subcontractor has clauses in their contract obliging them to collaborate with others, because with these complex projects these days, you often get subcontract elements such as cladding, which are designed by the subcontractor. So you need feedback from the subcontractor to the main contractor and the design team about these specialist elements, and that you need approval of all the details. There's a lot of collaboration between the main contractor, subcontractors and designers. And the last thing you want is relationships which don't actually provide for this collaboration. Health and safety, there are legal obligations for safety management of projects, construction, design and management regulations, the Health and Safety at Work Act, the RIDDOR regulations. All of these need to be managed, and the appropriate parties appointed, a CDM coordinator, principal designer, and there needs to be a principal contractor, usually, who is responsible for health and safety. If there's no principal contractor, then the package contractors have to do their health and safety, and the construction manager may have responsibilities for health and safety. Stakeholder management. These days, large and complex projects require a lot of management of stakeholders and information given to stakeholders. So you need to have a strategy around that information to stakeholders, and making sure that the stakeholders are all happy with what's happening, and that you don't get any last minute objections to proposed plans. Everyone needs to be kept informed. Communications and protocols. This is all about making sure people are informed and in a timely way. So we need to establish what is the means of communication. Is there going to be a project database, a project data management system? And if so, who has access, and how will communications be made? Progress reports about schedule and budget. Well, these are very important, and the contractor usually is obliged to provide these on the progress of the works and any delays that are happening, what the effect of the delays is, and what the plan of action is to address those delays. So very important document, progress reports, and that's usually obliged on the contractor to provide these under the contract that he is committed to. Progress meetings. Now, these are separate from the reports, and usually the progress meetings review the progress reports. So it's a face-to-face meeting, and it involves a challenge of the parties involved in the project, because inevitably with projects there are issues that come up that weren't originally foreseen. And so there needs to be a face-to-face discussion about who is doing what to address those problems. So the progress meetings need to happen regularly. Usually they're monthly, but they can be fortnightly or even weekly on very fast-track jobs. But they're so important because these are the forums in which the actions that are necessary to keep projects moving with good momentum are made. So it's a very important meeting, and it needs to be minuted, and the actions need to be followed up. Interfaces and interface management is absolutely crucial, and there may be interfaces with other projects adjacent or other projects related to the one that you're actually doing, which have an effect on your project. And so it's absolutely vital that the management team manages those interfaces. And above all, there needs to be a leadership on the project and a culture of decision making, because the worst thing that can happen is that there are delays owing to lack of decision making. So there are always things that come up that are unforeseen, that cost extra money, cost extra time. So the thing you need to do is make sure that the project team and the project manager on all sides, so it would be the team leader from the designers, it would be the principal contractors, site agent or project manager, and then the project management company or construction management company, all need to have leaders who are capable of making decisions and committed to making the right decisions. So this is the personal story from Louise Suter, our group architect. I'll leave her to explain that one. And Anna Lipcheva, our rentals director, who'll explain her story as well. So what is it that's difficult about delivering development projects? There is so much publicity about projects that actually go wrong. Not all projects go wrong, and it just depends on how you manage them as regards your success. So you need to manage your project safely, to quality, on budget and on time, and we can go into detail on each specific project about the best way to do that. And every project is different, and there are different conditions applicable. So the number one requirement is to have a clear and concise brief or project remit. What's the purpose of the project? So it might sound obvious, but this needs to be briefed out to the project and construction management team, the design team, the construction team, so they clearly understand the objectives and so that the scope of works can be defined and not creep. This is one of the downfalls of projects, when you get project creep, scope creep, and a classic example of that is the Nimrod project, the aircraft, where the brief changed so many times that it became undeliverable within the timescale and the budget and the airframe constraints. And I heard a presentation by the project manager for the Nimrod project where he explained the difficulties that there were with a continually moving set of goalposts, and how that the project failed in terms of budget and timescale constraints because of this continual imposition of additional requirements. So this should be used as a lesson for any project. You can't keep changing the requirements and expecting the outcomes to be the same. Risk assessment and contingency, all the risks need to be appraised at the earliest possible time, honestly and without bias. So there's a tendency towards optimism bias, and that the cost will be lower, the risk won't be as great, but in actual fact you need to apply a systematic approach to risk assessment. And people who say from a very early stage that 5% contingency is insufficient is misguided, because the contingency depends on the risks, and there's a process for establishing quantitative and qualitative risk assessment. And the outcome, if you don't allow sufficient contingency in terms of time and money, can be that there are drastic effects. I'll quote the example of the Bahama development in the Bahamas, where the Cable Beach redevelopment didn't provide sufficient funding to pay the contractor, which was China State Construction. And as a result of claims made by the contractor acquired the site from the developer. And this is not unheard of. You as the developer have to fully assess all the risks and the contingency required. So it's no good coming back to funders, usually partway through a project, asking for more money. You need to allow sufficient funding provision, which is therefore a provision of contingency of time and money, which you need to establish at a very early date. So you should definitely not go too tight with the contingency. You need to do the analysis and calculate the contingency of time and money. This is just what we were saying here. You need to not run out of money. So essentially your funding provision should provide for adequate contingency all the risks that were identified, time and cost risks. It's better to deliver within the promised timescale and budget rather than overrun the time, which usually incurs more costs. The whole site needs to be available and accessible. Well, clearly it does, but if it's not, then you get claims from the contractor. And I've been involved in projects where this has happened, and there was a massive claim on the Crescent development project where the contractor claimed he was not given site possession day one, despite the fact he knew that he wouldn't get site possession day one, and there would be a progressive availability of the site. And similarly, on the Kamanova Belyakovce project, there were problems with land acquisition. So what this means is that there were railway assets designed which needed to have land acquired in order to accommodate them. And there were delays by the client in acquiring the land, which resulted in claims from the contractor. It's sort of obvious the contractor is not going to indefinitely accommodate delays. He's on a budget, he's on a timescale, he's committed to delivering a scope of works within a time and a cost. But if the conditions change and part of the site is not available, there will usually be implications. Statutory permissions are in place: planning permission, outline and detail permissions and reserve matters, building regulations or building control approval, permissions from any other statutory authorities such as the National Grid, for example, permissions in connection with railways or tube lines. Network rail permissions can be very expensive and also take a lot of time to approve, and you will actually incur costs on behalf of Network Rail for them checking your proposals. So you'd better have deep pockets if you're undertaking work adjacent to the railway. Special protection measures may be necessary, such as scaffolding, fans over walkways. You can't have the risk of people being hit by falling objects from work that you're carrying out at height. So walkways, roadways, neighbouring premises all need to be protected. And usually a party wall surveyor must be appointed for all parties, and the necessary agreements and awards put in place costs money and it takes time. Protecting utilities. There may be easements in place, and protection measures may need to be arranged for electricity cables, water mains, sewers, gas mains, telecommunications cables. Also unmarked defence cables do come up from time to time. Enabling or advanced works. It may be expedient to arrange advanced works packages to carry out demolition or site clearance, or sometimes to divert major services diversions, which can take months or even years. In the case of National Grid pylon, if you need to move one of these, it's going to be 2 years plus as a lead-in, and it's going to cost more than $250,000 if indeed it is agreed. So they don't necessarily agree to you moving pylons. Identifying the appropriate contracting strategy, whether it's traditional or design team and build by the contractor. You need to have all the design team geared up to produce all the designs in a timely way so that there are no delays, and the client is responsible for coordinating his design team. So he may delegate that to a project manager, but essentially all the specialisms: architectural, structural engineering, civil engineering, mechanical, electrical engineering, the quantity surveyors activities, the cost consultant, any specialist consultants, they're all the responsibility of the client to coordinate. So if there are delays by the design team, then there may be implications. It's not unusual. Alternative strategies: design and build contractor, where the contractor completes all the detailed design, but of course you've got to tender the process. So the tenders for design and build contracts usually take a lot longer, a couple of months usually, because the design and build tenderers are putting forward their own design proposals. They may not be able to conform with the employer's requirements, so they put forward an alternative contractor's proposal. And sometimes there's a negotiation at the end of the tender process because the client may or may not find some of the contractor's proposals acceptable. So as long as there's not a significant change in scope of works, then there is a high degree of cost and time certainty with this method, design and build. Construction management, this is where there's no main contractor. The construction manager carries out some of the main contractor's roles, and then the trade contractor may complete all of the detailed design, including statutory approvals and construction. So this method is quite flexible, and it allows the client and the construction manager to vary the works and the requirements on the trade contractors. But the client and his construction manager are obliged to coordinate the interfaces. So it's not necessarily straightforward. It needs a highly educated client and a highly capable construction manager to actually manage successfully all the interfaces there are between the different package contractors or trade contractors. Turnkey contracts are ideal because here the contractor provides the design and the construction, the test and commissioning and the fitting out. It's usually done by very specialist contractors, sometimes for industrial or process plants. But sometimes the timescales can become extended for negotiations of the turnkey contract. Not necessarily the delivery, it's the negotiations that can take time. Fully complete and buildable design. This is fairly obvious, but it's quite a thing to achieve. There may be claims as a result of incomplete designs. We could talk for a long time about this, but the responsibility for complete and buildable design needs to be quite clear. Quality assurance and control measures. Usually quality control and assurance is managed by the main contractor, so during your pre-qualification process, you should make sure that the contractor has the right systems to be able to carry out this sort of very high quality control of the works, and that his systems are actually documented, and that you are satisfied with the quality control systems of the contractor before you appoint him. Building information management and modelling. The client needs to establish a brief for BIM, and the designers and contractors must implement this. So basically the client will receive the health and safety file at the end with all the relevant drawings and records as built. This is a whole subject in itself, and needs probably a few hours to discuss, but essentially the client needs to set the brief for the project. Contracts and collaboration. With complex projects these days, there's a lot of work designed by subcontractors. This could be lifts, or it could be cladding, or it could even be specialized systems such as refrigeration systems. They need to be incorporated into the main designs because they've got power, water requirements and so on. And so there's a lot of interface and collaboration needed between specialist subcontractors who have design responsibilities and the design team and the contractor. So you need to ensure that the contracts that are set up provide for and oblige people to collaborate with one another. Health and safety, very important. Obligations to conform with health and safety legislation are mandatory. You can't opt out of this. Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, the RIDOR requirements, Construction Design and Management Regulations 2015, CDM coordinator must be appointed by the client. Breaches of law and prosecution by the health and safety executive may result in custodial sentences for directors, especially if they're fatalities. So we talk very little about this, but this is absolutely a serious and onerous requirement. So you need to make sure that all the responsible parties are appointed and in place before you actually start work, and that you are satisfied about the competence of the people who you've appointed. Stakeholder management, you need to have a strategy how to manage all the stakeholders in the project. It could be as a result of meetings, involving them in meetings, stakeholder briefings, progress reports, making sure people are fully informed, and that whatever stakeholder there is, you have a person responsible to coordinate with them. It sounds obvious, but what you don't want to find is that major stakeholder who has the ability to affect your project dramatically isn't actually consulted or isn't actually fully informed. Communications and protocols. The project manager on behalf of the client usually proposes certain methods of communication systems for informing parties about significant events, formal notifications, minutes of meetings, distribution, progress reports, special reports, etc. All of this needs to be managed and stored in safe database and easily accessible for people. And importantly, there are systems in place for issuing the right minutes of meetings and the right documents, letters, notifications, drawings, updates, and so on. Progress reports. Contractors' progress reports must be submitted in a timely manner so as to be considered at the regular progress meetings, which can be monthly, fortnightly, or weekly, depending on the agreement and the timescale, usually the pressure on the job. The project manager may be required to submit his own report on performance to the client. Once he's got the contractor's report, he can usually glean the necessary information to do that. And there needs to be accountability, and remedial actions are essential if things are going awry. So it's no good just having the report and knowing what the problems are. You need to actually address the problems. Progress meetings are absolutely vital, because this is the forum where the progress reports are discussed. The variances to plan, time or budget must be accounted for. Responsible parties must undertake the corrective actions to bring deviations back to programme. Minutes of meetings are essential, so discussions are recorded and agreements about actions to be made are actually documented and then followed up on. Interfaces and interface management is so important. There may be interfacing projects or interfacing resources that need to be managed. For example, very specialised resources to do with railway projects for commissionings, signalling engineers and power engineers may need to be booked months, sometimes a year in advance. And so you need to ensure that these interfaces are properly managed, and if things go awry, you need to take corrective action. And most importantly on projects is, things don't necessarily go to plan, and the responsible parties should take leadership and decide and resolve matters quickly so as to bring things back on track. So essentially, out of the 20 key factors, what are the main ones? Collaboration is essential. Set projects up with pre-qualified contractors who are competent to do the work. Aim for good relationships between the parties. Be reasonable in everything you demand, taking account of the contract and its obligations. What I mean by this is that you need to fairly assess what responsibilities there are and be realistic about the party's ability to achieve what you demand of them. So contracts need to be reviewed, and if a party is incapable of delivering what's required, then maybe it may be better to change the party to somebody else. What I have in mind here is if an architect is good at concept drawings but not experienced at detailed working drawings, then you may need a supplementary resource for detailed working drawings. Now, that could be the contractor, it could be a party who is experienced in that type of work, but essentially you can't necessarily expect a party to perform out with their capabilities. So you need to be fair to consultants, contractors and clients alike, and manage the process in a fair and reasonable manner. So do you have a property problem? We can help you to solve it, provided we know what it is. So if you've got land sites which need planning gain or need planning permission to carry out certain things, we can actually carry out that planning gain for you. We can carry out commercial to residential conversions. If your commercial property is unused or underused, it's costing you money sitting there, we can actually convert it subject to planning permission. Blocks of flats, we can acquire these and in some cases get a higher rental value from such blocks of flats. Hotels, where there's the opportunity to add value. We'll look at any property in the UK or in Europe which you have a problem with, and we'll give you our honest assessment about what we can do to help to solve your property problem. So Alpus Group presents our unique branded system. A is for acquire the property. So we acquire the property in a number of ways. We can carry out joint ventures with property owners, set up a special purpose vehicle. We can lease the property from an owner with a view to purchasing it later. We can assist the sale by improving a property and then enabling the client to sell at a higher price, thus thereby creating wealth and profit, which we share between the property owner and ourselves. And so we acquire properties for multiple purposes, but essentially what we're looking for is to create win-win solutions. So we manage rental property as well for investment purposes, and we can also build a portfolio. So this is A for acquisition. Leverage. So you can leverage our highly experienced team of many years experience. We've got our group architect, Louise, who is a highly experienced architect, has much experience about planning, submissions and approvals successfully. I've got a lot of construction management experience, and Anna has a lot of rentals experience, and so we cover all aspects of property. We've got other experts who we consult in our power team, such as legal experts and other construction experts. We can essentially solve any problem, provided that we are shown the problem and you tell us what the problem is. We can come up with a solution for you. We can achieve the optimum value for investors. So once we've identified that there is a problem that we can solve, we can establish the project design. We ensure that the principal designer is appointed and all relevant legislation conformed to. We'll evaluate each site or property, see how the value can be optimized. We carry out design options to establish what may be possible on the site or property. We complete preliminary risk assessments for each design option, complete a feasibility study or studies for comparison and selection. We can seek planning permission or use permitted development. We can establish a budget and contingency, including the time and cost aspects. And we can formulate a procurement strategy, how to fulfill the project delivery. So this is the design phase, project design. the next phase is when we actually upgrade the value. So this is the implementation of the design. This is the translation of the design into the new physical assets. So it usually involves the appointment of a contractor, may not necessarily, but once the timescale for the project is established, the principal contractor would need to serve the F10 form to notify the health and safety executive at the start of the project, and then the necessary safety reporting arrangements and health and safety regime needs to be put in place before starting the works. And what we do is we provide safe, secure investment returns. So what this means is by translating the existing problem property into a higher value property, we're creating wealth, and this can be translated back to given back to the owner by sale of the property, or it could be by ongoing rental. So we can actually either arrange the sale of the property, or we can arrange the ongoing rental of the property, so that there are safe, secure investment returns at all stages. So we're key players in property as property owners, as developers, as property investors, and for asset management. So we carry out all sorts of development, and we will acquire property for investors as well as our own purposes. Types of investment that we carry out include residential, commercial, hotels, offices and retail, as well as mixed-use developments and land development. Property trends, we obviously take into account, current trends where there's a crisis on the high street, and some of the buildings there may be suitable for conversion to residential purposes. Not all of them, of course, but there are opportunities in the high street and the surrounding areas where we can actually add value by design and by fulfillment of that design for ethical and sustainable purposes. We can arrange mortgages, bridging and development finance on all sorts of property, whether for acquisition or for sale. We can undertake all the legal aspects using our power team, whether it's purchase of property or sale of property. So what are we doing? It just depends whether you're a first-time buyer, a property owner or investor. We can help you to solve your problem. If you're a first-time buyer, it may be that we can help you to own a property if you let us know what your requirement is, and we'll keep you informed about developments we're carrying out that are within your budget, and we can help you to actually become a property owner. Or property investors, we can help you to build your property portfolio. We've got a lot of contacts and network all over the UK and Europe. We use different strategies for acquiring property and also for creating wealth. We can use vendor finance, purchase lease options, assisted sales, joint ventures. So we're quite creative in the property space. We'll look at any prospect and give our opinion about what the best way to develop and to extract the optimum value from that property is. This is a case study by my colleague Louise Suter, our group architect. This is a case study of a project. It's actually 3 properties in Alton in Hampshire, grade 2 listed buildings. They're all separate owners. We've acquired one of the buildings. We're about to acquire the second. And the third one, the negotiations are on hold. We attempted to purchase the building last year, but the vendor wanted too much money. Since that time, the leaseholder has surrendered the lease. It's a pub. And we're just waiting to see what happens next. This property can complement our existing properties. The ones in the left-hand picture, we've acquired the lower building, and then the furthest building, number 6, we're about to acquire, and those 2 buildings can be developed into 9 flats. We've got the permission for the first building last year, in June last year. We got the permission for the second building, number 6, High Street, in July this year. Number 2, High Street, is in abeyance. So the vision is that we can develop these properties, 3 properties together, and we'll explain in the next slide. Some of the pros: these are good quality buildings, however they are grade 2 listed, so they're somewhat difficult in terms of satisfying the historic buildings officer, but the historic buildings officer is supportive of this development because what else could be done with those buildings? They're not wanted as offices. They've been empty for a couple of years, and originally they were merchants' houses, so why shouldn't they actually be converted back to residential in suitably sized accommodation? So if you look at these 3 buildings here, number 4, the one in the middle, we've got the planning permission for this one. We've actually acquired it. Number 6, we're just about to acquire it. It should have happened today, but it looks like there's another delay of a few weeks. We're going to try and negotiate an access in to number 6, which will actually give us then access to the back of number 4 as well. And those negotiations are ongoing. We've got a plan for number 2 as well, but we're just keeping that close to our chest because once we acquire the building, then we'll be able to decide what we can actually do with it. But the 3 buildings can be viewed as a land assembly and a development which will enhance that area, particularly as 2 of the buildings are empty and the 3rd one, the pub, is actually a failing business. So planning permission number 4 was granted 12th of June 24. Number 6, planning permission was approved in July 24, so that's 9 flats. And then number 2, we'll actually make the planning application once we've acquired the building. So we always endeavour to invest with purpose, ethical investment, social and community focused. Sustainability first. We use BREEAM, WELL and Passive House standards, and transparency through open reporting and governance. Our investment process: we acquire undervalued assets in growth regions. We apply sustainable design and development principles. We enhance the value with energy efficient technologies, and we exit via sale or possibly via lease with strong rental returns. This is another property that we sought to acquire. We haven't actually yet acquired it because the vendor wanted too much money for it, and the planning application for the amount of development that would justify that price wasn't forthcoming from the planners. But it's a lovely old Edwardian property. It's got a prominent frontage and lovely views at the back. So this is an ideal, it's a closed down care home. And it's got suitable large garden for some development. There was planning permission granted for an extension to the care home in 2013, but that doesn't necessarily translate into any sort of permission now. So we withdrew our planning application when the owner pulled out of the sale to us. This is quite suitable for residential accommodation. We did various schemes, converting into 10 flats or 8 flats or a large house of multiple occupation. Lots of things possible in a building that will actually cost millions to construct these days. So repurposing it from its present closed down care home, subject to planning permission, is an ideal way forward. So typical investor returns are 8 to 12%, capital growth with bespoke investment plans. If you've got particular requirements, we can create a plan that suits you. We can give you regular updates on how performance is going. and we can offer higher returns when carrying out joint ventures. So if you want to schedule a call with me, I can explain about all these things. Just click on the QR code or go to calendly.com/AlanJE. If you're a property investor, you can invest directly in property projects. We can offer you secured investment opportunities on upcoming property projects. And again, if you contact me on calendly.com/AlanJE, there's a QR code to take you to that, or you can simply call me on either of these two numbers, 07539141257 or 0333224125, or you can email me at alan@alpusgroup.com. If you've got any questions about our unique branded system and how we may be able to help you, we're offering a free consultation with our directors for the 9th, 10th of August workshop, so you can schedule a call with our our leader, Louise Suter, our group architect, on 0751 5941678. You can schedule a call with Anna Lipcheva regarding rentals on 0795 465 8547. Or you can schedule a call with me at calendly.com/AlanJE. The QR code is there. Or simply call me on 07539141257 or 0333224125. Do you want us to build your property portfolio? We're offering a done with you service, so we will work with you to help you to secure an investment property up to £300,000 in an area of your choice. So you get access to weekly deal sourcing webinars, and we'll support you to find deals using Property Filter, which is one of the softwares that we use. This offer includes a 30-day free access to Property Filter, and you'll see the link there for Property Filter, and I'll give you the QR code for that as well. We guarantee that you'll get a deal within 60-day sign-up period, or we'll work with you until you get one. So this is an offer to work with you, done with you service, but we basically guarantee you'll get a deal within 60 days. So here's the sign-up link here. You can go to calendly.com/AlanJE, or you can use the same numbers, 07539141257 or 0333224125. And we've got a done for you service. It's normally £4,997, so £5,000 to get you an investment property in the area of your choice up to £300,000 value. And what we're offering for this weekend only, 9th, 10th of August, is a done for you service at £2,997, so that's £2,000 discount, and we will get you a deal within 60-day period, or we'll work with you until you get one in your chosen area. And here is the link, calendly.com/AlanJE, the usual numbers, 07539141257 or 0333224125. You can contact us. These are the numbers, and this is the calendly.com link. So that's all for now, and look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.